Everybody has their own unique story, and it could affect anybody, any age, any race, any gender.
They are staying in a place that is not habitable for living.
When you're living at a friend's house, or you're living on the streets, or you're living in a shelter.
People who wouldn't be there if they were in a crisis situation. The way that a person becomes homeless is very complicated. The general public perception of people who are homeless is that they chose a lifestyle, that they're there because they did it to themselves, and therefore there's no reason why I should look up to you, I should look down on you. But you know what? They're just like you and I. Don't judge them based on the fact that they're homeless. You need to know exactly how they got to their situation in order to understand it, and you can't just assume that you know everything about them.
Well, I grew up in a household where I had two parents, had two brothers, and I eventually had a little sister. And everybody looking in on the outside thought our house was the place to be. They just thought it was like Chuck E. Cheese or something. They just wanted to be there. My parents were pretty well off. My father was working, my mom was working. We had the cat, the dog, the fish tank, but all that didn't matter. The bills weren't getting paid. And due to a job loss, we went through foreclosure and eventually ended up losing the house we had lived in for about 10, 11 years.
When I was younger, my dad was a disc jockey for WVXU. My mom was a nurse. She went from different jobs, really. She didn't really have one job when I was little, but mostly she worked at the Lodge Care Center. My childhood was normal. We went on family trips. We went and did things as a family. There's no abuse or anything like that. In February 2010, my family lost their apartment. We got evicted from our apartment because we just couldn't afford living there.
What a lot of people don't consider is that when someone does become homeless, they could have a job. Their income could be there. It's just not enough to meet their basic needs. So often people have to make a decision between paying housing or paying other bills. I mean, the average American family is like 1 to 2 paychecks away from becoming homeless.
My whole entire family got separated. My oldest brother, he was the one who didn't have anywhere to go. So he committed a crime because he had rather been incarcerated than homeless. So he went to prison, and he served 19 months of his life because I knew I was going to have to start couch surfing. Just pretty much staying anywhere I possibly could, just to have a roof over my head.
Another reason why people become homeless is because they have a mental health condition. About 30% of our homeless population do have a mental health condition.
My dad lost his job a year before we lost our apartment. The breadwinner of the household was my mom. She was a home nurse, so she would go to people's houses and take care of them. She lost that job because of her depression. We couldn't afford anything after that. I had to help pay for things. I had to help them drive everywhere. After my mom lost her job, everything went downhill. When we got evicted from our apartment, we had a month to find another place to live. My dad went to a church to see if we can live in their housing unit that they had. When we signed up, there were other families that signed up, and we weren't as deserving as the other families.
Acknowledgement is huge when you are isolated. It's interesting because there are people who are out there on the street who are surrounded by other people in the public while they're homeless, but they feel more isolated than ever before because people just walk by them and act like they don't exist.
When I found out that my family was getting evicted from their apartment, my mom told me that I would have to find another place to live. When she told me this, I didn't understand. I was so confused on what happened, why she didn't have a job, why we couldn't live together as a family. And I was so angry, I texted my friend Dana, and Dana talked to her mom, and she gave me a place to live. And I was able to move in there like 2 days after I told her. So it was really awesome.
My school phonies end up hearing about what I'm going through. And they introduced me to a program called Project Connect. And I met with a lady named Ms. Beach. And when I talked to Ms. Beach, First though, that's what I needed the most. Regardless whether she was able to help me or not, they bring me out of my situation. The fact that she talked to me and she genuinely cared, that meant more than anything else I'm going to tell you after the fact. She also kept me motivated, and I was so happy that somebody was actually caring about me that every time people would do stuff for me, I would just start crying because I didn't know how to react. I was so used to things going bad or going a little bit good and then getting worse that I didn't even know how to accept niceness without crying. And she told me about a program called the Transitional Living Program, the TLP. And she told me they might be able to provide me with housing if I qualified. And I leave and I caught the bus down to the Transitional Living Program. And when I got there, I talked to a guy by the name of Mr. Tom. And I was just telling him everything I've been through, how I was abused while I was younger, how I'm just couch surfing right now, just moving anywhere I could possibly go. And my main goal is just to graduate so I could give my sister somebody to look up to. And he told me, he commended me for that. And he wants to help me, but the fact that I was 18 years old, I wouldn't be able to stay in the lighthouse like I was able to do when I was younger.
One of the problems with the shelter system is if you don't fit into any of those categories. So if you are for example, if you're a single individual who doesn't have drug and alcohol problems or mental health condition, and you become homeless because of maybe losing your job because of a factory layoff or divorce or any of that, there are limited options for you. In Cincinnati, the drop-in center is that place.
So I went to the drop-in center, which is the largest shelter in Cincinnati. And I remember when I first walked in there, I didn't really know what to expect. Lady was just very apologetic. I never seen any place that looked like that except on movies. And I just seen a bunch of people just getting ready for bed. They had the same goal in mind. They weren't worried about trying to steal anything from you, or they weren't worried about drugs. They weren't all of these stereotypical things that you see. They were trying to get ready for bed like everybody else during that point in time. It was late, and the only obstacle they wanted to defeat was not sleeping outside.
Most people who become homeless, they're not sleeping well. If you're staying in a shelter, you're staying in a shelter with 50 other people who all are having the worst night of their life, and they are all dealing with a number of ailments and conditions.
I've never met a homeless person who had no ambitions. They all want to get back on their feet. They all don't want to be homeless. They all are tired of living in a shelter or on a bench or in a park and sleeping on the ground. They really just want to get their lives back together the way they used to be.
And when I woke up the next day, it was a Friday morning, and Mr. Tom called me, and we went down to the Transitional Living Program. And when I got there, I met with a lady named Miss Jackson, and I remember her just saying, "They didn't tell you?" And I said, "Tell me what?" She said, "You're accepted into the program. You can sign your lease and go meet your landlord." And for the first time in my life, I honestly knew what it felt like to be blessed.
The situation I went through, it really made my life spiral out of control. My emotions went out of control. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know what to do. So as of now, I'm trying to get my life back together. It's really hard to get back on your feet. I mean, my parents have still, throughout this whole year, have not gotten back on their feet. They're living in a hotel, an extended stay. So it's been a year. And they need help. They need support. Every homeless person needs support to get back on their feet. They can't just do it on their own.
Thanks to the help of Faces Without Places, the Transitional Living Program, and everybody that tried to help motivate me throughout the school, communities, friends, frenemies, whatever you want to call it, I was able to gain enough stability to graduate fourth in my class that year.
The reason I did this project is because I wanted to make people aware of homelessness. I wanted to make people aware that homeless people are just like everyday people. Anyone can become homeless.
There's this misperception that people choose that lifestyle. So if you don't understand what has happened and why someone gets there, then it's easy for you to turn your back on them. But my job is to try to raise awareness and to help people to understand that most people don't choose that lifestyle. They don't want to be on the streets. they would, if given the opportunity, their life would be a lot different. And I want people to get involved. Homeless people are just like regular people. They just don't have a house.
I go to UC and I'm a sophomore taking up communications to be a motivational speaker to let the youth know that regardless of any obstacles you have, any trials or tribulations, use that as reason to push you towards success, push you towards your goals, push you towards your dreams. Because I don't want to sound cliche, but if I could do it, you can do it. If you got any dreams, aspirations, you can do whatever you want to do. Just keep your willpower, your determination, and you'll be okay.